if you're land poor and you're near water, that means property becomes very valuable. So you take an old house like this one, a person would buy that property that he sits on, tear the house down, and have a new house. So that's why you're going to see old house, new house. Now once they came in and examined these houses as the water receded, they gave different colors for the exit. Red means it's in trouble, yellow means caution, and of course they put stickers on like that house. It's to be demolished. You notice it never came back and touched the house. The 29th of August was the anniversary date for Katrina. In the city, who stated if you haven't returned and gutted that house like they've done, then have it on the list to be gutted, it's going to be put on the list to be demolished automatically, starting August 29th of last month. To prevent that, you need to return and abide by the rules. So that means once they examined these houses, once the water receded, they gave it a rating. Now, if the house had 49% or less damage, that meant a person qualified for a FEMA trailer. But to get this FEMA trailer, you have to put it on your property where the damage occurred, and it could not be on the right of way. That's for sure. You also have to provide electricity for this particular trailer, sewage, as well as running water. Pre-Katrina, there were only 6 inspectors in the entire city of New Orleans. So that meant when a person received that trailer, even though it may have taken a month to get it, then that meant they had to wait until all of these things were set out and then examined by a city inspector before that contractor would actually hand you the key to that FEMA trailer. They said that you could have this trailer for 18 months. Now that's 18 months, but that's 18 months from the declaration date. When the president declared this a disaster area, that was the declaration date. So that means if you receive that trailer 6 months later, you only have 12 months to reside inside of that FEMA trailer. Now, our government says total cost for each trailer is around $75,000 for the moment that they had it. They purchased, made an agreement, they built it at the factory, had it delivered and set up, and you live in it. $75,000 per trailer. That's a lot of money, don't you think? Sometimes I wonder if CS was really used. Common sense. But going along though, look at these water lines. It doesn't matter if one was had low income, or one was very wealthy in this city. Everyone was affected for Hurricane Katrina in the Crescent City. Now, what does that mean when you open that front door? This house is being gutted. That means you have to tear out all the flooring, for number one. All the carpeting, all those hardwood floors have to come out. That means all the sheetrock has to come out, because it doesn't matter if you have 1 feet of water or 10 feet of water, that mold took over too. So you have to get all of this out of the house. The insulation, it's wet, it has to come out of the house. The wiring, that has to come out of the house too. And of course, that means all the appliances have to come out. The washer, the dryer, the dishwasher, all of these appliances, the stove has to come out too. That means furniture has to come out to this sidewalk. Also, then you have to take all of the trees that are down and bring that out too. They said on our neutral grounds that you just passed, there was 34 years of debris on those neutral grounds, about 5 stories tall. That has to happen. In other words, the house has to vomit. Now, old house, new house, all this taken from Lake Pontchartrain. Now on the left view, this little gated community, houses started in here at $750K and went as high as 1.2 off of its foundation. Everything is still in that house as it was pre-Katrina. It's set for demolition. Now these houses, these were up a little bit, but look at the water lines, even though they were built up a little bit. Look at these water lines. Now on the left view, they've demolished some wooden houses, but you can see clearly wooden houses, which is basically a lot of wooden houses built up on foundations off of the ground. A lot of them floated into one another. And remember, Hurricane Rita came in after Hurricane Katrina. So it's received that second dose. Basically now they're going to lay it flat down there and then put the I-beam, creating a T-beam. They say that's stronger. But they had I-beams 17 feet deep in these walls. On the left view, you can look down there. You can see the cofferdam that was created. This is where you saw the helicopters with the big sandbags, dropping the sandbags right down there. To the right of you, that's floodgates that's being built by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to stop that storm surge in the future. We've crossed over the Jefferson Parish. This canal separates Orleans Parish from Jefferson Parish. Now, it's this little area where you're in lots of great little restaurants. Over there, the house that stood directly in front of that has been totally washed off of its foundation. A couple other houses too. Now, the house that sit to the left of that house was destroyed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Now, what did this person, the person who owned that house, is a realtor. That house, pre-Katrina, was valued at $600,000. So, what's the most flood insurance you can receive from the federal government through your insurance agents? That's right, $250,000. So he thought he would do this. He had the $250,000 of flood insurance. So his homeowners, he raised that to about $1 million in value. So he thought this was enough coverage. After the hurricane occurred, of course, some are staying, but no longer will they write new policies inside the Crescent City. Remember, this is no scrungy neighborhood. This neighborhood has never flooded in New Orleans history. This is Fleur de Lis. This is a street that Harry Connick Jr. grew up on as a kid. Fleur de Lis. Now, we're going to go out to Lake Pumpstring for you. Show you the marina. When I first came back to do these tours, the tours themselves in January, you should have seen how this marina looked. It looks a lot better now. Go to inches to right there. That's a whole lot of difference, don't you think? Well, the entire city's like that. As we continue through this, the system out a few weeks ago didn't measure up to par, so they're still kind of working on it. Now that we're outside the flood, 50 years, 99 years. Now, you can build this as great as you want to. All of that. And if you decide that you want to sell, you sell the lease as well as the improvements that's on the property. That's how you sell. Now, this is West End Park. I just crossed over into it. Now, before we crossed that street, when I first began this tour, there were National Guards there. I couldn't just go straight out here. I had to stop. A member of the National Guard got on this bus with a loaded M16 and escorted me out here. That's the way it was. Now, this West End Park used to be very beautiful. It's not anymore. Literally, there were hundreds and hundreds of boats on top of one another in every direction. As if a giant took these little toys and just threw them everywhere. If you look to the right of it, see on that wall back over there, you still see some kind of capsized over there. You just picture hundreds of them on top of one another and just everywhere. That's how it was when I first started doing this tour. Now, out there to the left, see that little U shape out there? Remember the restaurants like Jaeger's, Bruning's, Fitzgerald's? That's what was sitting out there on all those pilings. They're all gone. Not one piece of them left. They were all swept away. There was no protection, remember? So when that 17-foot surge came across, it just pulled all of that out. This used to be the power squad. But let's take a clearer look at these boat houses. No protection. 17-foot storm surge is just washing right through these boat houses. Now, this is for people who have that discretionary income that they can make this a second or third place for the weekend. Corporations had some of these, had boat houses too. The slip was at the bottom where a person would dock their boat, and above is where they would reside if they chose to. Some people chose to live out here year-round. But look at the damage. This is not receiving priority because these are not basically main residences. This is second and third places. When it comes to boating, this was a big boathouse. This belongs to the owner of the New Orleans Hornets. This is his boathouse. That boat you saw back there is a Chris Craft cruiser, a 1954 Chris Craft cruiser. Now we're going through. Some have come back a little earlier than others. That's because they have businesses, they have other homes, other places. This is not receiving priority, but they will get to this. This will come back. But this is the predominant attitude of everyone around here, I think. Just think of the refrigerators. You had meat in the refrigerator, had a little seafood in that refrigerator. Remember, you just couldn't come right back into New Orleans. It was at least a month and a half before a person was allowed back into New Orleans. Can you imagine what it was like when a person opened that refrigerator and hadn't had any electricity for a month and a half? So they taped that shut. Is what they would do, put tape all around it, sit that out on the sidewalks, and when they did that, that quickly became a place for political commentary here in New Orleans. I guarantee you that. Now, Lake Pontchartrain on the left view is the second largest lake in America. Only Lake Superior is larger. Lake Michigan is third in this country. It's roughly 630 square miles, and is named in honor of the Marine Minister of France. Now, on the right of you, after that storm had passed, they showed you a building here at West End Bernie. It stood right there where you see these portable buildings and this above-ground pool. That was the Southern Yacht Club. The Southern Yacht Club is the second oldest yacht club in the United States, only the Yacht Club of New York is the oldest in this country. It burned totally to the ground because once that hurricane passed, the gas lines began to rupture. And when those gas lines ruptured and it sparked, it burned totally to the ground. Now that lighthouse right there, that's an 1830s lighthouse. It used to be our Coast Guard station years ago. They had plans, the Lake Foundation, New Orleans Lake Foundation had plans to turn that into a maritime museum, but I don't know what they're going to do with it right now. Now that seawall that you're looking at, that's the world's longest outdoor grandstand too. It extends to about 6 miles. That was put there in the 1930s during the W. Now is, all those houses on both sides had to be taken. Call that eminent domain? Well, they're doing that now, but not one person along that road has received one dime from their house yet, too.
What happened to the airport out here?
It's still out there. It's still right out there, that direction.
Yeah, okay.
It's right out there. See the light? See that? So it's growing rapidly since this hurricane. Some of the people have now moved over there. Baton Rouge has doubled in size at our state capital since Katrina. But let's speed up a little bit. I want to get out back into the lake view. Picture this right here. 0.3 million people. Now I'm going to go back through the gates in just a moment. Pre-Katrina, we had what was called Coconut Beach. When I say Coconut Beach, they love volleyball. Lots of professional volleyball tournaments are played here, particularly during our summer months. It used to be there. The court took it from there, and they kind of temporarily set it up right here. Oh, so we're going to call this Coconut Beach now. But they do intend to give this back.